Yo, what is up guys, your boy IzuKage here with a new what if. And this what if is what if Deku was the sin of wrath. Yes, another 7 deadly sins what if. The 10k special is going to be one as well, but I'm putting in work to make sure that it's as good as possible. So instead of making you guys wait a good couple days without a video, I'm dropping this series and God Key finale pretty soon. So I hope you guys go on to enjoy the what if. This is a story of the power wrath can give and the power it can take. We start this story off like most at Izuku's birth. After the doctors weigh Izuku, they realize something, that the baby has this weird dragon birthmark on his upper arm. It was really weird, but babies do have birthmarks all the time, so they didn't think too much of it. And for the most part, Izuku lived a normal life, except for some situations where Izuku would get really angry, like Inko takes away his toy, and he would have feats of incredible strength, at least for his age, like being 2 years old and lifting up the couch. Inko did go to the doctors for this, but they chalked it up to being some adrenaline rush. So fast forward to Izuku at the age of 4. This is the same day Bakugo unlocks his quirk, and in class people are excited, the teachers are amazed. One said, "Whoa Bakugo, your quirk is amazing and you unlocked it first? You're surely destined for greatness." Bakugo's eyes shimmered as he looked down at his palms, and even more sparks started coming off. Bakugo then immediately turned to Izuku, his best friend, and said, "Can you believe it? I'm gonna be just like All Might." Izuku said, "Yeah, Kachan, I hope mine's as cool as yours." Bakugo looked at Izuku, and for no reason he kind of got mad. The thought of Izuku being better than him, he wouldn't even entertain that question. Anyways, as time goes on, more and more students in Izuku's class were getting their quirks, and Izuku would eventually find himself, at the age of 8, the outcast with no quirk. One day after school, Izuku would get ready for his scheduled rounds of bullying. Bakugo would pull up with 2 other bullies. He would say, "Deku, I saw you talking to Claire today. Are we gonna have a problem?" Deku said, "No, I'm sorry Bakugo, she was just asking for help with a math problem." But Bakugo didn't care. He set off an explosion right in Izuku's face and said, "Did I ask? Just stay away from her." And he then set off another explosion, and Bakugo's friends were actually worried. He wouldn't normally go this hard on Izuku, actually never used his quirk on him before. And Izuku started to bleed from his arms he used to block the attack. Izuku is now on the ground, curled up in a ball, and says, I'm sorry Bakugo, it won't ever happen again." And Bakugo smirked and said, "That's not good enough," and started kicking Izuku repeatedly until he wasn't moving. Bakugo's friends grabbed him and pulled him off Deku, saying, He's had enough, Bakugo." Bakugo tisked and walked away. From Izuku's point of view, he's had it. He doesn't even feel pain anymore. With every kick, he just becomes angrier and angrier, but he blacked out. But Izuku's body wasn't unconscious. It slowly got up, and Bakugo heard noises and he turned around and said, "Oh, so you haven't had enough yet." But Izuku turned around and he had marks all over his forehead and his arms, and a dark aura began surrounding him. Bakugo was shocked but said, "So you finally got some dumb quirk? Well, it's no use," and goes to punch Izuku, but Izuku sidestepped the punch and knees Bakugo in the stomach. Bakugo's goons run up trying to help him, but in Izuku's hand appeared a short sword, and Izuku's disappeared from their vision. And when Bakugo looked back, Izuku was standing in front of one of the bully with the wings, and he coughed up blood. The kid looked down and Izuku's sword was shoved right through him. He pulled it out and the kid fell to the ground. The other kid with Bakugo, they ran off screaming, he's a villain, he's a villain! And they tried to get help. Meanwhile, Izuku stood there with blood all over his sword and a blank expression, but his body soon fell over. 5 hours later, Izuku woke up in an abandoned building. He gets up and starts looking around but finds no one. But as he tries to leave, a voice from a dark corner of the room was heard. "So you're finally awake, kid." Izuku turned around confused at where the voice was coming from, but it spoke again. "You should be on your knees thanking me. Good thing I arrived before the cops showed up." Izuku was confused and said, "Cops?" All For One said, "Yeah, cops. You don't remember? You killed someone." Izuku was still confused and he looked down at his hands wondering, did he really? All For One walked up to a window and peeked outside. He says, "Seems like the heat's gone down. Police were swarming the area. Your image has been all over the news. There's a citywide manhunt out for you." Izuku couldn't believe it. He went to the same window and when he looked outside, on a billboard, it said, "8-year-old wanted for murder," with a picture of him next to it. Izuku held his head. He couldn't believe what was going on. All For One saw his distress and said, "Just take it easy, kid. I have a place you could stay for now, but you'll have to do me a favor in return." Izuku was confused, but one thing was for sure, he can't go back to living his normal life. So he agreed, thinking very little about the favor he would need to give All For One. So All For One makes a portal of sludge and throws Izuku through it and walks through himself. They get teleported to a bar, and at the bar, Izuku saw a bartender with purple mist for a body and someone sitting at the counter. He didn't look too much older than Izuku. He had white hair and was pretty skinny to the point where he looked sick. And Tomura was wearing plain clothes. He hadn't yet gotten his villain outfit with the hands. So Izuku greeted Tomura and he was a pretty chill guy. He just seemed sad all the time. Tomura said, "The name's Tenko," and as he said that, All For One glared at him and he quickly corrected himself. Sorry, it's Tomura Shigaraki." Izuku was confused why he just switched his whole name up, but he just told Tomura his name and they got along pretty well. For the day, Izuku spent time getting to know Tomura and Kurogiri and they showed him to his room. It wasn't anything like his room at home, but it was good enough for now. The next day, Izuku was summoned by All For One. He entered this dark room and at the end of it was All For One sitting in a sort of throne. Izuku said, "You called me?" All For One said, "Yes, time for the favor I asked." Izuku said, "Okay," and All For One began to explain. "I would need you to join the League of Villains." Hearing the name, Izuku just realized and said, "Wait, you're a villain?" All For One said, "Yes, is that a problem?" Izuku's mind was racing. He can't be a villain. His whole life he looked up to All Might. But All For One got up and began to speak once more. "So, you want to be a hero, huh? What do you think you will gain from that? You've seen the extent of heroes' ego and their greed for power, and for those weaker than them to stay at their feet." Izuku began to think back to his memories with Bakugo, and he saw how corrupt he got when he got his quirk, and the stronger it got, the more he would beat him down every day. All For One, who was using his quirk to peer into Izuku's mind to try and sway him, said, "Become a villain, or do you want to end up like your old pal, Kachan?" Izuku shouted, "No, I'll never be like him." And All For One said, "Then join me." And with determination in his eyes, Izuku said, "Okay, I will." All For One smiled and went back to sit. He knows Izuku will be a valuable asset to the LOV. All For One said, "I'll have you train with Tomura every day. He'll be taking you on some patrols when he sees fit." Izuku nodded, and as he was leaving, All For One had some advice for him. He said, "Remember, child, happiness and compassion are for the weak. Anger is what makes you strong. Anger is your friend. Think back to those who've crossed you. With anger, your revenge will be sweet. Izuku thought about what All For One said as he left, and only one name was in his mind: Bakugo. Quick intermission, if you guys haven't already checked out the second channel, I post daily anime content over there, so don't miss out. Link in the description or in the top right hand corner of the screen. Now, back to the what if. So fast forward 10 years and Izuku has undergone immense training with Kurogiri and Shigaraki. For tougher defense, Shigaraki would decay Izuku's skin and he would have to endure it for as long as possible. Through this, Izuku would find out he had healing capabilities. Once during his training, his arm decayed completely and this black aura surrounded the area it was removed, and from it a new arm. Izuku would go on to master this dark aura and his weapon summoning as well. He called it Lost Vein. It was a curved short sword with 5 holes in the middle of it and a dragon tattoo emblem on it. It was pretty similar to his birthmark. Izuku did other training like basic strength, endurance, and stamina training. During all these training, Izuku would realize he wasn't a normal human. There was something special about him. Not just his quirk, but him. He couldn't really put his finger on it, but he knew it. So we're back with Izuku at the age of 12, and today is his first patrol with Shigaraki. Also, something to mention, over these years, the two have grown incredibly close. I wouldn't say brother, but almost there. So Shigaraki comes into Izuku's room and throws some clothes onto his bed and says, "Put it on, we're heading out." Izuku was excited, finally he gets to put his training to use. He puts the clothes on in seconds and his outfit was similar to Dabi's, all black pants, boots, and a jacket with a white undershirt. When he was done, Izuku went down to the bar and sees Shigaraki in his villain outfit as well as Kurogiri. They're both ready to go. Izuku asked, "What's with the hands?" and laughed. Shigaraki smirked and said, "Oh, so you got jokes now." And the two chuckled a bit, then Kurogiri said, "The portal is ready." It opened up and all 3 of them went through. On the other side, Izuku and Shigaraki were on top of a building, and they got low to hide and Izuku said, "Who's our target?" And Shigaraki replied, "Hawks. Master had some deal with him but it went sour. Now it's our job to show him why you don't double-cross the League." Izuku and Shigaraki fist bump and started running. Kurogiri said he should be helping up with the cleanup after a villain attack up ahead. They all run up to the edge of a building and look down. They see a lot of police and heroes clearing up the sludge off the streets, but there they saw their target, Hawks. Izuku and Shigaraki shared a glance and they both knew what to do. Izuku jumped off the building and landed right on his feet. Using his dark aura, he prevented his legs from completely shattering, but the impact caused a lot of sound and the heroes saw Izuku. First they were concerned is this kid okay? He just dropped off a building. But Izuku then sprinted at Hawks at full speed. The hero reacted quickly and he flew off the ground, but from above a portal appeared and Shigaraki came falling down onto Hawks. He grabbed his wings and started decaying them, and he fell due to this. Izuku ran in next to him, but from the corner of his eyes, he saw a kid sitting on an ambulance. He looked over and the kid seemed familiar. And then he knew. He thought, that damn face, I wouldn't forget it anywhere. Bakugo. But before Izuku could act, Kurogiri teleported them out of the area back to the base. From Bakugo's perspective, he was just getting treated on site for, nearly being killed by the sludge villain. But All Might came in to save the day, but as soon as he came, he left because of, his whole time limit. But Bakugo wouldn't know this, obviously. So he's sitting on the edge of the back of this ambulance waiting for the nurse to get back, but he heard a loud thud and saw a kid with black-green hair land on the ground. Everything went as I explained, but as they were making their escape, Bakugo caught a glimpse of the villain, and he thought, no, it can't be. But everyone thought he was dead. He couldn't have survived years in the wilderness, and now all the memories were coming back. Bakugo tried to forget that day, but that day was one to remember. The day he got one of his friends killed and the day he lost his best friend. Ever since then, Bakugo wanted to change, but after the other bully that was there told everyone how Bakugo beat Izuku to the point where he lashed out, they started ignoring him and soon he became the outcast. Back with Izuku, he and Shigaraki brought Hawks to All For One, and the best part was he was alive, because All For One would take him either dead or alive, but he preferred him alive. So they brought him in front of All For One and he had a soft chuckle and said, "Good work you two, I'll deal with this one myself." As they walk outside of the room, they heard screams of pain coming from behind them. Izuku and Shigaraki looked at each other and said in sync, "That's what happens when you mess with Master," and they had a good laugh. So fast forward to next week and All For One called Izuku in. He walked up and said, "What do you need, Master?" All For One said, "You have improved greatly, Izuku, but this will be your biggest challenge yet." Izuku raised an eyebrow because he's been through a lot, like near-death events, but he kept listening. All For One said, "Prepare yourself, because I will have you enter UA to gather intelligence." Izuku questioned, "But won't they recognize me?" And All For One said, "Yes, but I have a little present for you. This quirk will allow you to be able to change your facial features, so you make it useful." Izuku bowed his head to All For One and he touched him, transferring the quirk, and said, "Now go, the entrance exams are a week from now." Izuku bowed and ran off. So let's fast forward a week from now to the entrance exams. The new quirk wasn't at all hard to use, he just needed to think of a face or a feature he wants to change and it did. So now Izuku had golden hair, almost touching his shoulders, and jade green eyes, just a darker shade of his regular eyes. Izuku put on some regular clothes, but before he left, Shigaraki wished him luck, and to his surprise he gave him a hug. Izuku smiled because he's never felt this sort of affection from anyone but his mom. But that's a whole can of worms I don't want to open in this part. So Izuku runs off and Shigaraki feels like a proud older brother. So Izuku gets to UA and was immediately taking mental notes of everyone around him. While he was taking all this information, he wasn't paying attention and tripped. He was about to fall head first but was stopped mid-air. He got pulled up by a girl with short brown hair and she apologized for using her quirk on him, but said it was bad luck for him to fall on the first day. Izuku simply said, "Okay, thanks," and walked off. Ochako thought, they would get to talk a bit more, but she guessed he had somewhere to be. So Izuku walks into the main hall and sees a line of people getting ready to register for the exams. So he waits and then is given instructions to the test area. So Izuku goes through with the tests and he has similar intelligence to Kanon, so he doesn't do incredible but passes with decent marks. Once he's finished, Izuku heads to the assembly hall and goes to get his assigned seat. When he gets there, that's when he sees Bakugo. Izuku has to take control of every nerve in his body not to kill him on the spot. And he sat down quietly. Bakugo started eyeing him down, but because he was getting no response, he decided to actually pay attention. President Mike began to explain the point values of the different robots, but before he could finish, Ida stood up and said, "Is there a reason why it says there are 4 robots on the pamphlet while you only explained 3? If this is an error on UA's part, this is very unprofessional." President Mike said, "Well, if you had let me finish, I would have explained that the largest robot is worth 0 points. People around the hall began chuckling and Ida, embarrassed, sat down slowly. So after he was finished, he dismissed everyone to their gates. Izuku went to his and waited for the countdown, but then President Mike came over the speakers and said, "There are no countdowns in a real battle, go, go, go!" Everyone there ran out and started to gather points. Izuku was right with them. He had to take this seriously to make Shigaraki and All For One proud. He shot out in front of everyone and right down the main street was a 3-point robot. In a flash, Izuku appeared behind the robot holding Lost Vein in his hands. The robot's body slowly began to slide off and crashed into the ground. Izuku cut through it like butter. The teachers watching from the observation room had their eyes glued to the screen. Izuku's mastery with the sword caught everyone's attention. And sometimes he would punch straight through robots, slice off their arms and limbs just so easily with precision. Izuku was basically unstoppable, and by the end of the time limit, Izuku had racked up an impressive score, 590 points. Izuku felt good about his performance and was ready to head back to tell everyone how it went. But before he could, Izuku heard screams ringing out all around the arena. He easily scaled up a building to get a better view of what was going on, but then he saw a huge robot coming down the street, and from below a girl screaming that she was trapped under some rubble. Izuku didn't need to do this, but he knew that heroes must be watching. So if he stuck his neck out to save this girl, he would be commended. Izuku smiled at his brilliance and dropped down to save the girl. He picked up the rubble off her easily and realized it was the same girl from earlier. She thanked him for the help and he said don't worry about it, and he picked her up bridal style, and before the 0-pointer could squash them, Izuku with a swift slash of his sword cut the robot's arm, allowing him to escape. Izuku brought Uraraka back where she was treated by Recovery Girl. So, Izuku, not wanting to stick around, ran back to the base and he was as happy as ever. He went inside and was surprised there were two people there that he's never seen before. A guy that looked like burnt toast and a schoolgirl. Shigaraki turned around and said, "Oh, Izuku, you're back. Time to meet the new members of the team. They'll be helping us out." Izuku wasn't too happy having more people on the team. It wasn't like he and Shigaraki couldn't get work done. But Shigaraki explained that they're here to help us out with a big plan to take down the symbol of peace, All Might. The big question is, how would they manage this? Would the team even get along? Well, find out next time, because that is where I'm going to be leaving this one off. If you guys have any powers you would like to see Izuku use, leave them below. Obviously, like Meliodas' powers, so whichever of them you would like to see. Anyways, thank you guys for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked it, like, and if you like my content in general, consider subscribing. It's always free. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next What If.